All right, now Wayne Murray's in on the camp now, and he won the Hunter Campdraft Cup last year. Wayne Murray comes from Bunya, which is a little area up near Gloucester. All right, he calls for his gate too, and that looks like a pretty good camp here from my vantage point, ladies and gentlemen. Now he's just tailing his steer now down to that first peg. That's a nice first peg too from Wayne Murray, the winner of last year's camp draft here. Plenty of pace on here too, and unfortunately for Wayne, he has gone the wrong side of that second peg, and he has the opportunity to try and correct that there if he can. But the whip has been cracked, and so he will have a cutout score only here for Wayne Murray on Kookaburra.
They've certainly got a nice run in them, these young Angus steers. They're in a hurry today to make sure they're getting back to their mates maybe in the backyard. But certainly they've got a bit of play in them, but they've also got a bit of leg too. That's a cutout score there for Wayne of 23. That puts him in equal first place so far for the cutouts. Had some great cutout scores so far already this afternoon. 2 23s and 2 22s. Next up, we're up to Darren Brislane here in the arena.
Yeah, Darren Brislane, he qualified at Dungog Penny. He was second place in the Dungog Show Open Draft. And he comes from Wingham. He's a horse breaker and horse trainer. That's what he does for a living. He's riding a gelding, an Abdul gelding called Ali. So Scott Pickering from Wingham. So far our high score is 92. Peter Dillon, our first competitor out. Grant Wathen with an 85.5. All right, now here's Darren Brislane, qualified at Dungog. He comes from Wingham. Riding Ali, he's working across the face of the camp there nicely. Calls for the gate. And outside on course now is Darren Brislane chasing a 92 or better to try and get himself in the lead in his first round of the Hunter Campdraft Cup. Got the 2 points in the bag there for the first peg. He's got to get up on him now and move that steer across to the second peg. And he's halfway around the second peg now, up on the shoulder to try and get the steer now, working back behind the gate to try and come through the gate. So 3 points out of our 4-point course has been allocated now to Darren Brislane. He sets himself up for the gate now. Can he do it, ladies and gentlemen? Round he comes and down through the gate. Come on, Newcastle, give him a round of applause. Darren Brislane from Wingham with a 4-point course there, and we'll have a score for him in just a moment. Well done, Darren.
If we're over at the soccer field, you'd say he was bending it like Beckham. He got that one right back and then turned its nose right back around when it was heading in the completely opposite direction. So great work there from Darren.
Yeah, I think we'll see a few points allocated here too, Penny, as we see Cliff Lyon coming in now, who won at Stroud and also qualified with the second place at Bulladoola. So he's one of our double qualifying competitors. And he's a grazier. And he's riding a mare called Ugly Betty.
And a pretty good score there for Darren, a 21.5 in the cutout, 4 for his coursework, 63.5 for his horsework, and a total of 89 points there. So that jumps him up into second place so far.
Yeah, that's a good score too. So 92 and an 89 and 85.5 for our 3 full courses, which is excellent. So Cliff Lyon now, as I said, qualified twice. He won the Stroud Camp Draft and was second at Bulladoola. He's won a few drafts recently in Manila and Stroud.
And Cliff brings us up to halfway already through the first round. So it's zinging past here already, the first round of the Hunter Campdraft Cup. We'll be back for the second round this afternoon at about a bit after 6 o'clock.
Yeah, well, and here's Cliff now. He also won a round at Sydney Show, I reckon, Cliff Lyon. So he's working across the face of the camp nicely now, trying to get some extra points out of a judge. He calls for the gate. Out on course now in the Hunter Campdraft Cup, Cliff Lyon from Ellenborough. Got a fast steer too. He's going to move up on the shoulder now and move that steer around the first peg. There he is, 2 points for the first peg. Heading up towards the second peg now. Nice and tight there, the first part of the second peg. Up in front of the steer. This is a good run so far from Cliff Lyon. The judges will be enjoying this run. Sets himself up for the gate now. We'll see if he can get the gate, ladies and gentlemen. Newcastle look on, cheer him through the gate. Cliff Lyon moves up on his steer now, and that's a good course there from Cliff Lyon. That's a good run. Put your hands together, Newcastle. We'll have a good score from our 2 judges there, Mr. Warren Richards and Leon Cummins for Cliff Lyon. All right, I reckon, Penny, that score, and I hate to judge from the commentary box because the judges don't like that, but anyway, we're a long way away from it, but I think that score, we might see a score higher than 92 for Cliff Lyon.
It was a pretty neat example of camp drafting, and certainly the judges, there's no point taking the points home in their pockets. I'm sure they've got a few to throw out yet.
You can even see a score over 100 here today from Warren Richards, but anyway, Jay Charnock is our next camp drafter.
We do have a new leader here, Paul. Cliff Lyon had got a cutout of 23, 66 for horsework, 4 for course, giving him a total of 93. So just sneaking in above, a point above Peter Dillon there, who had our first run out this afternoon, got a 92.
93, a 66 for horsework, you know, when horsework's out of 70, and we've got 2 judges. One of those judges has used just about all his horsework points there, which is great to see the judges giving big scores. That's what it's all about.
That's right, you come to the big arena, you may as well use the big points that they put on the great display.
The big camp draft, the big arena and the big judges. Jay Charnock is our next competitor, one of our younger competitors in today's group. He's an equine dentist and horse trainer for trade. He's only been camp drafting for 6 or 7 years, but he's placed in many camp drafts and cutouts. He qualified at Dungog. He won the camp draft at Dungog there. He's riding a stallion that he calls Larkham. So here he is now, Jay Charnock from Bulladoola. At the front of the camp there, calls for the gate quickly too. He's lost his steer back and into the mob, so the judges will be deducting points for that, but he will have a second shot at cutting his steer out. So he'll have a second chance now to try and get this steer out. And if he loses it back again, I dare say he'll hear the dreaded sound of the judge's whip. So you can see the way that horse is watching that steer there. You can see the ears are pricked, eyes on the steer. He's got to make sure he's got it cut out, so there's only one steer at the front there, so only one animal can leave the camp.
And you can't change your mind. Once you've picked him, you've got to stick with him.
That's exactly right. Once you've picked your steer, he's the one you've got to take. So here he is on course now. He's out of the camp, so there'll be a sigh of relief for him there, Penny, as he heads down around the first peg now. Jay Charnock from Bulladoola, and he's got a steer that's a bit quick for him today, so it's bad luck there for Jay. He'll have a cutout score only.
Yeah, that one just was determined to get back to his mates. He wasn't interested at all at going for a run around the park. So that one, though, you don't get to reuse them. It's back off to the backyard, and then he'll be back on the big Western Star truck home to Vasey this afternoon.
Now, Ian Doherty is our next competitor, comes from Woodville, just outside of Maitland there. He's been camp drafting for 7 or 8 years. He's riding a gelding. Gelding he calls Beaver.
And just a score of 19.5 there for Jay, 19.5 for his cutout only.
So 93 still the lead, Penny, with 7 gone. Ian Doherty now riding Beaver from Woodville. He selected his steer. He's at the face of the camp now. A couple of quick turns. He calls for the gate. Steer's just facing the wrong way though. Wants to get back with his mates, but out on course now is Ian. He's got a fast steer too, but look at this. Look at Beaver up there on the shoulder of that steer, ladies and gentlemen. That's what camp drafting's all about. As he lets him run out now in front of him to try and line him up for the second peg. They go, but this is a pretty neat run too from Ian Doherty as he comes round the second peg now. And round he goes, so that's 3 points for course so far. Now, can he set himself up for the gate and get the 4? Move him, see the way he pushed that steer across there, ladies and gentlemen, on the right side of the peg. Comes around, tries to get the gate, but a little bit wide, but he will get a score for horsework and a course score of 3. So that's not a bad effort there for Ian Doherty from Woodville, and we'll have a score for him in a moment.
Certainly that one was moving at great pace. It's amazing to see how quickly these guys can get around the course, and the horses are certainly keen to chase those cattle down once they get a bit of run under those legs. So they might only be little, those steers, but they've got a fair bit of pace in them, and the horses certainly are able to catch up if they get given the chance to take their nose and go for them.
Oh, and they can be going at, 50 k's an hour too out there, Penny, and you've got a fair bit of weight moving at a fast pace on uneven ground. A horse that weighs 550 kilos, a rider that weighs 80 or 100 kilos, a steer that weighs 450 kilos. There's 1,000 odd kilos of flesh moving around there at a fast pace. Fred Patterson's our next competitor now. He qualified by placing at the Stroud show. He won the Hunter Camp Draft Cup in 2012. He comes from Gloucester. He's riding a mare called Chanel. Here is Fred Patterson, a very experienced camp drafter. As you can see there, as he's working his steer across the camp now. Calls for the gate. Outside now. He's a property manager by trade up there at Gloucester as Fred Patterson. So he takes the wide course around the first peg, and he's a bit of pace on here too as he tries to keep up with that steer. He's got to get up on the near side of the steer now and try and push him on the other side of that peg, but he's gone through the gate the wrong way. He's completed the course incorrectly, and so he'll hear the dreaded sound of the judge's whip. We'll have a cutout score only for Fred Patterson.
Yeah, and that one there, he was determined to head back to the truck, but he shied at the gate at the last minute. And just on our last competitor, Ian Doherty, we've got a score here for him, a 22 for cutout, 3 for course, 59.5 for horsework, giving him a total of 84.5. So that slots Ian into 4th place at the moment.
And although that's, 10 points off the high score, it's very important to get a score in the first round, because the winner of the Hunter Campdraft Cup will have the highest scores over 2 rounds, Penny.
That's right, and sometimes you might get a few scores in the first round and a few scores in the second round, but it's not necessarily the same people getting the scores. So if you're someone who jags 2 good scores here this afternoon, normally you're the person that gets to walk home with the cash in the envelope. So a score there for Fred Patterson of 21.5 for his cutout. Next we're moving up to Gordon Farley with just 3 competitors to go in this round.
Yes, Gordon Farley's called for his steer now. He comes from Stroud. He qualified with a 2nd place at the Gloucester show. He's been drafting since the age of 12 and he's 49 now, so he's been drafting for quite some time. Gordon Farley, riding a horse called Cheyenne, and he's having a bit of bother there, and I'd say the judges have cracked him off, so we'll have a cutout score only for Gordon Farley.
Yeah, that one wasn't too interested in running around. That one just wanted to stop and check out everybody in the grandstand. There's not a lot of neighbours where we live at Vasey down there. It's a pretty quiet little stretch of the woods. These cattle have never seen so many people in one place. They see this many cattle in the paddock maybe, but not this many people. So they're probably all a little bit awed as well, just checking out the surroundings. They're not used to the flags and all the bright lights and things. So it's interesting for the cattle as it is for you guys. You guys might not be used to seeing the cattle, but the cattle certainly aren't used to seeing the people. A score there of 22.5 for Gordon for his cutout only. Next we're on to Tony Mortimer.
Yeah, and Tony Mortimer comes from Saltash, Penny, and he qualified through his efforts at the Bulladoola show. He's only been drafting for 4 or 5 years, but I think he's been getting a little bit more serious about it the last couple of years, and which is good because he's qualified down here at the Hunter Campdraft Cup.
And he's just taking a moment there just to have a look at the new one that's been put into the yard. Each rider gets a chance at a new beast, plus a few that have been just sitting there for a minute. So you've got to go through and check, work out which one you like the look of, work out which one you think is going to have the temperament to let you just nudge it around a few of those poles and get a good score.
Yeah, and he was Tony was a runner-up in the encouragement draft at the ABCRA Nationals in Tamworth in 2013. In 2014, he qualified for 3 events at the Nationals where he won the encouragement Rider of the Year. And he also won the aggregate at the Nationals and placed in the aggregates of maiden horse and open rider. So that's well done for Tony. And you can see him on course here now, riding Little Abbey is the drafting name. Little Abbey got a much larger name at home, I think, but he's taking the wide path around that first peg. But he's got the 2 points though, ladies and gentlemen, so he's got to try and work up to the second peg, but he's not going to do that. That steer is far too quick. And so Tony Mortimer, his first visit to the Newcastle Showground, will only come away with a cutout score. And
takes 1 peg literally there, took the peg out on his way through. But anyway, the steer's on his way home now, looking back forward to getting back into the truck this afternoon, heading back to a bit of grass this afternoon, getting back to a bit of quiet time. And that's a carbon copy score there for Tony Mortimer, 22.5 there for his cutout only. We're on to our last competitor in this round now, Mitch Ball, who will bring to a close our first round. And the score he's got to beat this afternoon is a highly competitive 93.
Yeah, and Mitch Ball hails from a little village called Barrington, which is west of Gloucester. And he won the Gloucester Camp Draft in 2014 at the show, which is how he qualified for the Hunter Camp Draft Cup. He was also the winner of the encouragement draft at Willawarren in 2013. He's riding a mare called Georgia. So Mitch Ball, 21 years of age, our youngest competitor here today, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll see if the youth can get one over the older fellas here. Mitch Ball, he's got round his first peg nicely, so he's got the 2 points in the bag there. He's got a steer that wants to duck and weave all over the joint now, and he's just come the wrong side of that second peg, but he can have a second shot at the second peg. As you can see now, ladies and gentlemen, he'll try and get up on the shoulder of that steer and move him up around the second peg, and he gets him around the right way this time. But time will be running out too, so you get 45 seconds is pretty quick, goes pretty quickly when you have to have 2 shots at a peg, but it won't make any difference because that steer's just gone the wrong side of the first peg, and so he'll hear the judge's whip. He'll have a cut-out score only for Mitch Ball.
And that brings to a close our first round. So I don't think his score is going to challenge, obviously, the score we've got from Cliff Lyon of 93 and Peter Dillon from 92. They're 2 very high scores for our first round. The competitors will make their way back down now for a bit of quiet time before we come back out a bit before 6 o'clock, I believe, for our second round of the Hunter Camp Draft Cup this afternoon. The 2 highest scores today, it's a winner-takes-all situation. So hopefully the guys there that got a good score in the first round will get a good score in the second round, and then they'll be pretty sure to take home with an envelope with a bit of cash thanks to the Baileys of Greta.
Yes, and thank you to all our sponsors as we complete the first round of the Hunter Camp Draft Cup. Baileys of Greta, as Penny mentioned, also Kentan Machinery, the Thomas Cook Boot and Clothing Company, Lawrence Livestock Transport,